Welcome to the Livfiit Listens podcast, a safe space of growth, personal development, and overall wellness with your host, Olivia Catania. Diving into the realms of all things health, conscious living, mental expansion, and much more, this podcast is designed to help you evolve into your best self and live fit. Let's get into the show. Hello. Welcome back to the pod, episode 29. Officially the final episode here in the Hawaiian apartment Airbnb. Insider scoop, insider secret. I've actually been recording the past 3 podcast episodes in the span of like 3 days because I am staying for the next 2 weeks here in Oahu. This is just my last on Oahu, but this is just my last day like here in the Airbnb. I'm going to stay with my friend Rachel and her family for the next 2 weeks, which is very kind of her. And then this coming weekend, we're going to be going to the Big Island, and then the following weekend we're going to Kauai. And I just am really excited to see those other islands, and I'm just really thankful that she's coming with me and all that sort of stuff. But this is, in fact, the final episode here. I also was intentionally pre-recording just because I knew I wouldn't have really a space in her house, and like we're going to be with her family, so I'm not going to be like, can you be quiet? I'm trying to record, obviously. So I don't know, feeling nostalgic though. Everyone say your goodbyes. This was a really good run. She was literally the perfect apartment for me. I don't know why I feel the need to personify everything, but I do. But with that being said, I'm supposed to be out of here in literally 25 minutes. My checkout's at 11 a.m. But you know, how strict is that? I'm pretty much packed. I just need to basically put everything in the car and like all of the straggling items. Which, can someone let me know why I thought, like when I was like, oh my gosh, I need a pack, like I was so dramatic, like I thought I was moving out this whole entire apartment, like all the furniture and everything. Like I literally came here with clothes and my electronics and my crystals, like pretty much. Like I thought it was gonna be such a big deal for me to pack, and like I did it in literally like 40 minutes yesterday. Literally not even. But I thought it was going to be like a whole day affair. I was like, I need to get out of this apartment. Anyways, today we're going to be, wait. I'm getting ahead of myself with the gratitude. Today I'm thankful for, just because there's a lot of like prefaces that I want to give in this episode for some reason. Actually, I do know why. They're just all important things that I want to say before we get into the video. I'm scatterbrained today. Now, before we get started, I didn't meditate today. I didn't journal. I didn't do any sort of cards. I didn't have any quiet time because I'm also obviously returning my rental car today. So I had to like go fill the car up with gas and send him photos. It's a long story, but basically I had to deal with that like first thing in the morning, like right after I woke up, because I only had till 8 o'clock to do it. And anyways, I was feeling so agitated, which we'll get into. I'm getting ahead of myself. But so I'm feeling a little bit scatterbrained, and that just goes to show like how important my morning routine is for me and how important self-work is. Like I don't have to do it every single morning like I could usually flow, but some days you need it, and today I needed it, but I didn't do it because I didn't really have the chance. And I can feel it. So I'm just using this as just to reiterate to you guys that self-care and soul work is important, and it works, and it matters, and it actually plays a difference in how you show up. And then it's days like this when I think of like, wow, people have absolutely zero. There's some people out there who have zero morning routine, zero self-care habits, zero like internal reflection, mental mindfulness, awareness practices. And they're just like out there living, like going about their day. And I'm just like kind of concerned about that. But also like, you know, they don't know what they're missing. So like they're able to function, but like, are they functioning dysfunctionally? Like we always say, are they dysfunctional? Are they dysfunctionally functional? Or just what works for them works for them? I don't know. Clearly I'm off my rocker today. Anyways, what I'm thankful for is my own personal mental awareness. On that note, that's what I'm thankful for, because this morning, like I was kind of in a little bit of a mood. Like I just was like, I could just feel that I was agitated, and like, I'm just very thankful that I've gone through all this soul work, and like, you know, I've gone through my soul journey, that I've started this soul journey where I'm able to, you know, have that awareness of like, hey, ding, ding, the observer in my mind, the experiencer of the experience is like, why are you tense right now? You're tense. let's have awareness for that instead of getting like consumed in that emotion and like having it take over me and then like acting from that space. I was able to really like sit back and experience it and like become aware and then do what I needed to do to change the course of action, which we're going to talk about in this episode, which is going to be all about releasing resistance. And I'm honestly really excited about this one. This episode is super freaking important for a lot of different reasons. I think it's also going to be very transformative. It's kind of similar. I touched on some of these notes in the, I think, episode 5, where the episode titled It's All Perspective. And also another one from the very beginning, episode 3, the freedom of acceptance. Basically, it's going to be touching on those notes a little bit, but specifically more on that ridding yourself of resistance, which we'll talk about. And which is also funny is just this morning, I got an Instagram DM, which is really freaking sick, because she specifically said, she's like, a few weeks ago on the podcast, you said something that really resonated me. And it was something along the lines of, I release resistance to the present moment. I really loved this and think I'm going to get something along those lines tattooed because it's so aligned with my life experiences. Anyway, I love your content and really wanted to tell you that it is impactful for me and I'm sure for others. I hope you're well. Which, thank you so much, Alex, for that message. But I think that's so cool that she would get something like similar to what I said tattooed on her. Like, I think that's so sick. But also, it just was so funny that she sent that to me this morning, the same morning that I was going to do a whole episode on the concept of releasing resistance. So on that note, we're just going to hop into it. That was just kind of my sign for the uni, because at first I was like, should I record? Like, I kind of need to leave. And I'm like, we recorded though. Especially because something happened today which completely echoed this episode. So first, before we get into that example, I want to touch on like what actually resistance is, because at first I didn't fully understand it when I first kind of like heard of the term. So basically, what I want you guys to do is to think about something that makes you really upset. And think about what actually makes you upset. Let's just use yesterday, for example. I was at a little cafe doing some work and I was going to get some lunch. And the lady before me, there was like a family and they were taking really, really long to order. And then the lady who was like taking the order, the machine kept blacking out. So like it took a long time and I was waiting in line. That's something that could really upset someone or really aggravate someone or annoy someone. But I want you guys to think about what is actually making you upset in that situation. The key is that it's not actually the event that's making you upset. It's your reaction to the event. And that upset reaction that I'm talking about, that is the resistance to what I'm referring to in this whole entire episode. That is simply the resistance to the present moment, resistance to just what simply is. And there's a quote that I really love. I believe it's by Shakespeare, and it says, "Nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so." And this is kind of the part of the episode where it's really overlapping with episode 5, where I'm talking about it's all perspective. And I preach about it pretty much every single episode of how truly like your perspective, your perception is completely what molds and shapes your reality. Like all that, everything in our reality, quote unquote, if you're not watching, I'm doing quotes on the camera. Everything has to get filtered in through your 5 senses, through your perceptions, through your subconscious beliefs, and that's what shapes the interpreted reality that's going in. So it's completely 100% all your perspective. So if you're getting super upset about a situation, that's your own perception, interpretation to the event. It's not the event that's making you feel that way. It's your reaction and perception of said event that's making you feel upset. Because for example, yesterday, and I'm not just saying this for the episode, like I genuinely was chilling. I was not bothered at all by what was taking a long time because I didn't get uptight about it. I didn't let it affect me. I didn't make it bigger than it is. I didn't look into it. I just was like, okay, this is my present moment and I'm just chilling right now until the next moment comes where it's my time to order. Whereas someone who didn't necessarily have that understanding and thought like, hey, this line is taking a long time. This is bad because of my preconceived beliefs and agreements. I'm going to get upset by this because in my head, I think that waiting in line is a bad thing and I'm going to get pissed about it. Again, the exact same situation, but 2 different perspectives and thought patterns and thought habits, I guess, if you will, that is making a completely different experience from the exact same event. And I think the biggest thing that helps me kind of maintain this this awareness and actually take the action to like fully implement this of like, no, I'm actually going to release the resistance and just be okay and accept the present moment, is because when you actually do that, like that's what creates, that's the only constructive thing left to do. That's like the same thing when people like, I always say that when people like are just thinking negatively of a situation or talking down to themselves or whatever, like what good is that doing? Absolutely none. It's like not helping the situation whatsoever. So even if that's like the present moment, there's nothing you can change, that you have to wait in line. What's the next best thing you can do? The only constructive thing you could do in that situation is just simply accept what's going on and just be at peace with it and make the most of it. Like nothing else makes sense to me. Like it just is so self-deprecative if you're not doing that and just kind of like wallowing in self-pity for no reason. But staying calm and truly just accepting the now and like what is will give you the clarity and will create the space needed to then be able to take action and find a solution. Like when you're so consumed about being upset about a less favorable situation, you're blinded by that. It's all you're perceiving. It's your whole entire perception. Like all you're going to be seeing when you're another quote, attention goes where energy flows, or intention goes where energy flows. Essentially just saying whatever you're focusing on is going to grow. Whatever that wherever your attention is, that's all you're going to see, feel, hear, etc. And so when you're focused on the resistance or you're being upset to what is happening, you're going to keep experiencing that upsetness, that anger, that resistance, as opposed to if you accepted it. You guys know brain works weirdly. I always visualize it as me like just swallowing the pill. Once you or like ripping the Band-Aid off. Once you just get over the hump, right? Once you just swallow the pill, it gives you so much clarity to then be able to move forward and like actually think of a tangible solution to like make this situation better, instead of just being blinded and buried and engulfed in the actual problem itself. You'll then be able to create space to then see the solution. And also, you guys, I know I always say everything is energy, and I think this is a big reason why it's so important also to rid yourself of resistance. Resistance is like a frequency. It's like an energy to me. So like when you're so dead set on being upset about something, just because you're so pissed off about it and you just can't simply accept the fact, like, how do I explain this? Sometimes it's hard for me to explain, but like if you're sitting in traffic, like what's making you upset is simply because like you are genuinely pissed off about it. Like you are the one that's holding resistance to the situation. Whereas if you just accept what is, it will hold no weight over you anymore, and it will completely be just, it won't carry any weight. Like it will be insignificant to you. And so when you're so upset about something and you're feeling that resistance because you just don't want to, you're just pissed about it. And that's that resistance that I'm talking about. Your energy field is now in that same frequency. It's pent up with all this resistance. Like again, I picture the body with like a very free flowing vessels. Like if you want to picture it through your veins, like energy is just constantly flowing through. When you're carrying resistance about anything, a specific person, an event, a situation, those are little energy blockers, is how I picture them in your energy body, in your space. Which also, that's also a book in, I think he mentions it in The New Earth and Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, where he talks about your energy body. Like you have your physical body, your emotional body, and then your actual energy body. There might be another one, like your spiritual body as well. But all I'm saying is that we do have an energy body, which is essentially just our energy field, or like kind of your aura, which people talk about as well. So when you're holding the resistance within you to anything, even if it's a whole period phase of your life, you're holding resistance if you have resentment towards something that happened when you were a teenager or your whole college years. Those are all little blockers that are going to be staying in your energy body, disrupting your flow as a human. And so when I'm in a situation and I'm finding myself holding resistance to it, I'm pissed about it, I'm irritated, I'm just like, I'm rubbed the wrong way. That's when I'm holding all of those energy blockers are starting to form. But then when I focus on swallowing that pill, releasing resistance, I imagine those blockers getting flushed out from my body. And that's what allows everything to get back into the flow again. And again, that's when you find your solution. That's when things start to work out again. And that's when you're able to move forward, because you've got rid of those. You broke the dams in the river. And I think the goal of life should be doing what you can to stay in your flow as often as possible. And that a big portion of that starts 100% energetically by ridding yourself of resistance. And so that takes us to the example of what happened this morning. Again, like I was saying, I'm kind of rushing around to get out of this Airbnb and return the car and everything. And so I had to run to the gas station to fill the car back up to, put enough gas in it for when I return it. Then I had to run into the grocery store, and when I went to pay, I realized that I was missing my credit card. And I was like, oh, hell nah. Like, I don't want to deal with this morning. Like, oh no, like it's probably in the car. At that point, I was like still chill about it. I was like, okay, it's probably in the car. I was skeptical, but I was like, we're just going to say it's in the car for now. So I paid with my debit card, whatever, went back to the car. I could not find it. Looked in my wallet and all of the crevices. I was like, this is just lovely. Like, where's the credit card? And then I kind of started to get a little bit tight. Like this when I was like, bruh. And so then I went back to the gas station because I was like, okay, maybe it fell out. Could not find it. I also looked at the parking spot in like where I was at the grocery store. Couldn't find it. And this kind of was getting a little bit like, I was like, it's going to be okay. Like, you don't really need to worry because you can just turn off the credit card. Like, that will be okay. You don't need to worry about like fraud really for the most part. But I just was like getting tense. Like, where is it? Like, it just was an annoying thing that I didn't want to think about, like have to find and, look for and whatever in case I lost it. So I'm looking. And that's when I kind of am like realizing like, okay, I understand why I was getting a little tight before, but now I'm getting like it's starting to last for too long. Like, why am I still uptight about this? And that's where I kind of had that awareness. The alarm went off and then I was like, Liv, you're exceeding homeostasis, emotional homeostasis. What's going on? Like, you've been tight for a little bit too long. What's happening? And I kind of maintained that awareness. I understood. And that's when I took a breath and I literally said out loud, I said, okay, I'm releasing resistance. I release resistance. I literally said that out loud. And I kid you not, seconds later, I turned on my phone flashlight and looked in the crevice of like which I already had looked in between the seats. I just didn't see it before, coincidentally, but not coincidentally. But then when I looked at this angle, because now I was like from the back seat of the car looking forward, right after I said I release resistance, I turned on my flashlight and I was like, oh, I see it. And I know that's like that's not going to happen every single time, but a lot of the times where I find myself getting irritated or like nervous or upset about something, and I say to myself, get that, I observe what's happening, I observe my emotion, I understand like, hey, I'm getting irritated, I'm having doubtful thoughts, I'm getting uptight, I'm getting low vibe. Once I'm aware of that, I will tell myself, I release resistance, I surrender to the present moment, I release resistance to what is. I literally feel an energetic shift within me. And that's a perfect example of what I mean. When I said that, I had that energetic shift, then I was able to come into alignment with finding that credit card. Or if you want to look at it another way, like then I shifted to having my eyes and my brain look for a solution pattern, as opposed to previously when I was simply focused on the problem. So I was only focusing and seeing the problem, which was not having the credit card. But once I released resistance to the present moment, I was able to kind of switch the lenses in my glasses and I was able to see solution. It's kind of like if you want to picture as x-ray goggles, like you could look at it like that. Like then you put on your x-ray goggles and now you see all the solution, where if you had your x-ray goggles off and you're constantly focused on the resistance, you're not ever going to ever be able to find the solution because you're looking through the long lenses. So that was a little story that I want to share with you guys because it kind of was crazy how fast, and again, I think the more that you are in these practices, right, and working on your energy, the faster you'll be able to see the changes, right? I think if you're just starting out, it might not be as instantaneous, right? The results, it might feel harder for you to kind of learn that lesson, but the more that you go down that road of learning the lesson and fully adopting that lesson and embodying it and living the lesson, the faster that these changes are going to manifest for you. And it was just really crazy because I'm telling you guys, it was seconds. And I literally said it out loud. I said, okay, I'm releasing resistance, because I was like, Liv, you need to chill. And then I looked up and I saw it through the crack of the car. And I was like, thank you, Uni. And I always say thank you as well. If you find your solution to whatever your issue is, make sure you have your gratitude, because gratitude is everything. But that also happened to me a couple weeks ago. I accidentally left my camera in the cart at the grocery store. I came all the way home. This was in a vlog, so you guys might have seen it. But I came all the way home, noticed that I had lost it. And at first I was like, oh no, like I started to get uptight. Like I was like, is someone going to take it? And as I was driving, I was like, you know what? Whatever's meant to be is going to be. I release resistance. I'm, remaining hopeful, but I'm also accepting of whatever is to come, whatever the uni wants. If my camera is stolen, maybe that's a sign that I'm supposed to get a new camera now because it's old, and I just completely released resistance and accepted what was my present moment, and I decided the reaction that I wanted to have, and I showed up and the camera was there. Someone had turned it into customer service, and that was that. So it really is crazy how often when I actually make the conscious choice, like release resistance, how much it honestly has, pivoted my reality and what has manifested in my everyday life just by simply changing my energy field and what I'm then in energetic alignment with. So I think even this like whole releasing resistance concept goes so far beyond like having it, because I think it's a huge component to finding solutions to your problems. I think it's step one to finding solutions to your problems, but also even just in general, I think it is so imperative to helping you just like enjoy life. Because like at the end of the day, there's things that are out of our control. There's things that may not really have a solution for us. There's things that just may alter our life path, right? But at the end of the day, like those are things that you can't change. And if you don't have a solution for it and you just have to accept it, like that's the only constructive thing that's left to do, is just simply acceptance. And once you do that, it makes it feel so much less scary. And going hand in hand with that, when you accept what is and you release resistance to your present moment, whether it's, an inconvenience or it's less favorable, it still allows you to enjoy what you do have and just be at peace with what you do have. And again, just make the most of what you do have. I think that the source of so many people's suffering, if you think about it, truly is simply always solely goes back to the one simple fact that they're holding resistance to whatever their present reality is. And, rightfully so, like we're all human, like we're allowed to have a reaction. We're allowed to be upset at times. Like you don't want to bog down or bottle up your emotions. But at the same time, when you're releasing that resistance, you're allowing that emotion to flow through without ever needing to get caught. You know what I mean? I feel like when something less favorable happens and we get upset about it and we have that resistance, that's what's making it be caught within your energy field. That's what's making that emotion manifest within you and grow subconsciously or consciously. Whereas opposed to if you just surrender, sit back, accept and allow what your present moment is, that will then allow the emotion and whatever the case may be to flow through. And then you're going to be able to, think of next steps and where to go from there. And I think that this concept has allowed me to not fear so much of life and like have so much anxiety about things, because I think that, again, I did a whole episode on releasing anxiety. If you want to check that out, that's not that old. It's a few episodes back. But, when we have anxious thoughts, we're worried about things, like that's us. Because we're worried of the consequence on the other side, right? It's like, oh no, if I miss my flight, like for me, at least previously with anxiety, like I kind of thought like that's it. Like I could never really think of after the fact. Like I would be like, oh, the world's ending. Like that's just what I thought. Like, oh, I missed my flight. Like I failed. That means it's a failure and it's over and it's done. Whereas, it's no secret that life is a continuous process that's always going on. Like, okay, if you miss your flight, it's going to be okay. You're going to schedule a new one, and maybe you're going to have to stay a night in a hotel. Maybe you're going to have to take a shuttle somewhere. Maybe you're going to have to pay an extra $200. Maybe you're going to have to pay an extra $500 that you don't have, but you're going to, like, just at the end of the day, it always is going to get figured out. Like, as long as you have a pulse, you're breathing, like, it's going to be okay at the end of the day. And at some point, it's simply just going to be a memory of something that you got through. And it's not going to feel as big as it was before you actually went through it by any means. So something like, I don't know, just thinking of that sense of like releasing resistance to all these potential problems melted so much of my anxiety away, because I was like, I'm just going to be able to accept what is, and then I'm going to be able to find the solution, and we're just going to work through it. It's kind of just it just seems so much bigger when you feel the need to constantly fight things, of being like, oh no, I'm anxious about this happening, because it feels like a fight of having to kind of work through it and find, how to conquer it. And that's kind of this viewpoint of you against life, as opposed to you and life on the same team. Like when you have resistance to these situations, you feel like it's an obstacle that you need to overcome, of you versus life. And that's you kind of holding that resistance and holding that like conflicted energy. I mean, in the sense of like fighting energy, like it's a conflict between you and life, or you and what's happening, as opposed to, again, that also saying it's not what's happening to you, it's what's happening for you. It's once you are able to release that resistance and accept what is, that's when you kind of switch the narrative to why is this, this is happening for me. Let me work with the universe to come up with a solution to this obstacle that it's handing me to help me grow and evolve. Like, everything is a gift and in our placement of life for a reason, to help us evolve as a human, which is one of the very most reasons why we're here, is to overcome and evolve. So changing that narrative and keeping in mind that I can release resistance to the present moment makes me so much less worrisome and anxious about things to come, because they just don't seem as daunting, because I just am like, you're going to accept it, and then you're going to be able to find the solution, because you're going to get through it. Like, the biggest thing with all these inconvenience or quote unquote problems in life is simply our reaction to it. It's simply the concept and the perception of, oh, this is a problem. That's the biggest part, not actually the event itself. Like, the event or the quote unquote problem itself isn't even the hard part, because you can always get through it. Like, what seems like the biggest bear is our perception of it, of being like, oh, this is bad. This feels really hard. This feels really XYZ. It's like our perception of it that makes it seem so much bigger. It's kind of like, okay, I'm having a weird visual, but it's kind of like when you do like puppets on the wall, you know what I mean? And it looks like it's this huge thing on the wall, but if you actually were to look and turn around, it's like a little teeny puppet with a light behind it. That's kind of the same thing. Like, when you are having pent up resistance, that's when you're focused on the anxiety ridden thing by looking at the scary thing, this reflection on the wall. Whereas when you swallow the pill, accept what is, surrender, release resistance to the present moment, that's when you're able to turn your perspective, because you just are least paralyzed by that resistance, and you are able to turn and see that it's just a simple little puppet that you can, work through. It's not as big as it seemed. So that has just been a really big perspective that has helped me so much, just in life, man. Like, I feel like I really don't get that upset anymore. I don't really get angry anymore. I don't, even if it's like a little annoying thing that's just a nuisance, it doesn't really bother me anymore, because I just tell myself I'm releasing resistance, because that's the true problem, is my reaction to what's happening, not the actual occurrence itself. Like, when only things matter, the only things that matter are what you give weight to, or what you give meaning to. Like, otherwise, absolutely nothing would matter. Like, if you truly think about it, like, if something happens to a random stranger that you don't know, that like they had to wait in line, you're like, oh, that kind of sucks, but like, it doesn't really mean much to you. Where if it's your grandma who had to wait outside in the cold, you're like, oh my gosh, that was awful, like, I'm pissed, but like, it only matters because it was something that you gave weight to. It was the same exact occurrence. Do you know what I mean? But it just, one means more to you, so it feels heavier to you. So I think that's enough of the rant, but do what you can to really embody this. And so the affirmation for today is very simple. It just is, I release resistance to what is. I release resistance to what is. That's everything, you guys. Everyone say goodbye to the Hawaii podcast studio. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. Thank you guys for all of your support on the podcast episodes while I've been here in Hawaii. I really appreciate all of your guys' love and support so freaking much. And on that note, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment or review, or share it on your story. I love when I see you guys listening. It makes me so happy. So again, I love you guys so much. I'm just so thankful for everything. And I'm sending you guys so much love, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Peace out, baby.